Welcome to Becoming American Staying You. I'm Jessica, and I'm here to help you prepare for the U.S. Citizenship Test without leaving your story behind. In this episode, we'll cover the First Amendment, your rights and responsibilities as an American, and what it means to participate in democracy. Remember, the format for each episode will be as follows. I'll read off all the questions we'll cover in the episode. Then I'll go through each one individually and give the answer. After that, we will chat a little bit about the context behind each one, and finally, I'll read the questions one more time, but with a pause, so that you can answer before I confirm that you got it right. First question for today. What is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? Second, there are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. Describe one of them. What is one responsibility that is only for United States citizens? What is one right that is only for United States citizens? And finally, what are 2 ways that Americans can participate in their democracy? Let's go ahead and talk about them individually and talk about their answers. What is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? We have the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the right to peaceful assembly, freedom of the press, and the right to petition the government. And we'll talk about all of these and what they mean in just a minute. Next question. There are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. Describe one of them. All right, like I said, there are 4, but the first 3 aren't irrelevant, but the last one kind of just encompasses everything. So we're going to go with the 26th Amendment, and that is citizens 18 and older can vote. If you also want to have a couple extra in your pocket, you can address the others, which are you don't have to pay a poll tax to vote, and that any citizen can vote. But you have to be a citizen 18 and older. So that one really kind of clarified it. But the poll tax one is another kind of unique one as well. That was put in because of bad things people were doing, but we're not going to get into that today because this is just about getting the answers. All right, what is one responsibility that is only for United States citizens? Remember, this is a responsibility, and sometimes responsibilities are like eating your vegetables, right? Serving on a jury, okay? Some people love it. It's really cool. You can pretend you're in Law and Order, right? But yes, jury duty is a thing, and you have to do it as a citizen. And the other thing that is fun, and they'll give you a sticker for, they should give stickers for jury duty, right? Then maybe more people would enjoy it. Okay, I'm sorry. You can also, as a responsibility, you should consider it a responsibility to vote. But what is one right that is only for United States citizens? Could also consider voting. Okay, that's a right. It's a right and a responsibility. So if you want to remember less things, just use voting for both of those answers. Okay, but you also have the right to serve in a position at the federal level. Anything but president, unless you were born here, right? If you're born here, you're already a citizen and you're probably not watching this. But you can run for any federal office besides the office of the president. And that's a right that we all have. Any one of us can do it. Next, what are 2 ways that Americans can participate in their democracy? There's a lot of ways that you can participate in democracy. And honestly, some of them are really fun. Again, you could vote and get a sticker. You could join a political party. You can help with a campaign, run for a public office, publicly support or oppose an issue or policy, right? If the government's doing something that you don't like and doesn't align with your values, you can speak up about it, and you should speak up about it, because otherwise the government goes like this. If nobody says anything, if we all believe this, but we let the government go way over there, then all of a sudden we're living in a place that doesn't mean what we thought it did. So speak up. You're protected. You're not going to get in trouble for it. You might get, have to deal with different opinions with people around you, but you're not going to go to jail for it. All right. Let's talk about the context where these answers come from. Like, how do we even get these rights? How did this even come to pass? Most of this is really centered around the First Amendment. Okay, and here we go. The First Amendment guarantees 5 core freedoms. I'm going to read the actual wording of the Constitution to you. Okay, the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Here we go. Quote, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In today's English, that means that our government isn't going to create its own church, and it's not going to force anybody to participate in any particular religion. This was the most important thing to a lot of people when they came over to this country. So Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay? Or abridging the freedom of speech. Okay, so abridging the freedom of speech means they can't like do anything that constricts your ability to say what you want to say. There have been things like you can't shout fire in a crowded theater and cause a panic and cause a stampede that impedes public safety. But other than that, you're pretty well protected. Or the press. So they also can't prevent you from sharing and publishing your ideas. Okay. Back then it would be a book or a newspaper. Now it's the airwaves and the radio and the television and the YouTubes and the Spotifys. So there's no law abridging the freedom of the press. The right of people to peaceably assemble. So this is where we get into the ability to come together as a large group and do whatever that large group wants to do peacefully. And I think that's a key word that we need to remember, right? Sometimes that means that you need to get a permit from your local area in order to maybe close off a park or have rights to the picnic tables at that park. Or maybe you want to have a parade because you want to march in the streets, and that's fine. Get a permit for it. You can't just walk on the freeway and close the freeway, folks. That's not peacefully assembling. And we don't want people getting in trouble for sharing their ideas. So please check your local area, or make sure that when you are protesting that you're not blocking everybody else's right to get from point A to point B. Remember, somebody might be in an ambulance, right? You don't want to be responsible for causing that traffic jam that kept that person from getting to the hospital. Yeah. So especially when there's so many other avenues where we can make our voices heard, right? Because we also have the right to petition our government for this redress of grievances. And what that means is that you can go to your elected officials and sit down with them or one of their staffers, or you could write them a letter or leave them a phone call or send them an email or go to a meeting and speak at public comment. And you can tell them and have time, like quiet time that is all yours to share what you want to share and say what you want to say. That is a right afforded to you in the First Amendment. And I gotta tell you, public comment at these public meetings can be very, very impactful in development of policy and shifting of policy or shifting of resources to match what the community is valuing at that time. So be involved with your First Amendment rights. It's one of our most important guarantors of protection, right, for speaking up. These rights give you a voice, and that's really important because in many places around the world, people can be jailed or worse for speaking against their government. But here you're protected when you express your beliefs. And I want everybody to just embrace that and feel that protection. It's a little scary sometimes, but it's worth it. All right, moving on. There are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. Let's describe one of them. So our voting rights, it is a right and it is a responsibility, and it has evolved over time. We could say the Constitution has expanded voting rights over time. I think At this point, the easiest one for you to remember for your test is that all citizens 18 years old and older can vote. And that's thanks to the 26th Amendment, if you want to be fancy and remember that number. Okay. So regardless of race, regardless of gender, those amendments were the 15th and the 19th Amendment that allowed anybody who's a citizen of any race and gender can vote in a United States election. And that was the 15th and the 19th Amendment. There's also one that says there's no poll tax, right? So you can't go show up to vote and they'll be like, oh, that'll be $5, please. No, you don't have to pay any money to vote in an election. So here we go. These are things we've got to do. These are, we might not like them. It's like eating your vegetable. If you don't like a vegetable, you know what I mean? You got to do it because it's what keeps our community healthy and what makes our system work. But one responsibility that we all have is showing up when we get called for jury duty. Okay, it is not always fun, but it ensures that when someone is accused of a crime, regular citizens help decide the outcome. And that is a key part of our justice system. All right. One right that is only for American citizens. You have the right to vote. You have the right to run and hold, if you are duly elected, for public office, right? And talk about getting involved in your democracy, right? Yes, you can run for mayor and governor and city councilman and state senate or, representative in the House of Representatives or for the federal ones, right? You can run for any office except president. In order to run for president, you have to have been born here. But, right? Like, get involved, do the thing, okay? And if you want to participate in your democracy without necessarily, running for office, I'm not discouraging you from it. I think you should give it a shot if you're so inclined. The number one way to participate as an American is to vote. Get out and vote. Make sure you know the days that you vote in your area and mark them on your calendar and plan to get them done, or make sure you sign up to vote by mail when that's available. Just vote. And before you vote, research the issues. Don't vote for who you think is going to win. It's not a competition. Well, I mean, it's competition, but it's not like you're not betting. Right? You're not going to get like a return on your money if you vote for the same person that everybody else voted for because you thought that that's who you wanted to vote for because you just wanted to vote for the winner. Vote for the issues that match your values. And a lot of time that means reading the fine print when they send out the voter guides. It means looking up who a person is and what their background is and where they come from. Go and talk to them if you have an opportunity. They do meetings and town halls and campaign events. Go to those events and get to know who you're voting for and what you're voting for when there's a change to your local, state, or federal law so that you know the nitty-gritty. Don't get overwhelmed by the presentation. That's, seems to be what the majority of people just look at the big show on the outside or what they see on a commercial or even just the short little blurbs at the beginning of your voter guide. Those can be so manipulated and so twisted. It's freedom of speech and freedom of the press. They're not lying. They're just taking words sometimes and turning them into one thing or another. The only way you can really know what's going to be enacted is if you look at the letter of the law, and they will have it written out, or you can Google it, and you gotta read those big lawyer words and get through the heaps of information sometimes in those bills, and you got to read it before you vote on it. You don't have to, but you might want to because it's going to be what you're obligated to, and it's going to, the president is going, if you're talking about your federal laws, right? It's your president's job to enact the laws that are on the books. So if you don't want to see that law be enacted, you got to not have that law on the books. Use discretion. All right. Other ways that are maybe not so reading heavy to participate in your democracy. You can join a political party, which you usually have to join one political party or another in order to be able to vote in a lot of primary elections. But join a party. You can help with a campaign. And how can you help with a campaign? Say you really like so-and-so who is running for mayor or school board or president. They'll have some kind of an office or some kind of a place where people get together, and it'll be like a campaign office. And you can just go in and say, hey, I want to help with the campaign. Or you could email them, or you could reach out somehow. Or you could just talk to your neighbors and be like, hey, I really like so-and-so. What do you think about voting for them? I like them because of these reasons. So just talking and sharing your ideas about who you want to vote for is totally allowed. Don't ever feel afraid to talk about what you think would be good for your community when it comes to doing your voting. But also know that you don't have to tell anybody ever who you voted for. That's private, and that's between you and the ballot box. And you don't ever have to tell anybody who you vote for. Other things you can do, you can write to your elected officials, you can speak with them, you can attend community meetings. The goal is just to make sure that your needs and your family's needs and your community's needs are heard, right? It doesn't mean that you're always going to get what you ask for when you go and talk at these meetings, but it's a way to let them know that what they're doing is affecting you somehow or another. Elected officials, it's just us, right? The government isn't some magical cloud of a force that grants us our tax refunds, right? The government is us working together to make those decisions about how much you're going to be taxed, what laws we have to follow, whether your road gets repaved every 5 years or every 10 years or twice a year, right? All those decisions that put our society together are made by us, right? It's you, it's me, it's your neighbors, it's the people who choose to participate. And that's what makes America amazing, is because we are the government. So man, it's just almost kind of overwhelming to think about how much you can participate and how much you can be involved in the quality of life in your community. And I encourage you to get out there and try it, because it's really cool. It's really, really neat to get involved. It's really neat to have an impact. All right, my friends, let's reflect a little bit. Okay, I want you to think about this. Where you've come from, or even if you're already here and you've been here forever, what rights do you feel are limited because you're not a citizen? I want you to think about this because it's going to help you remember what you want to choose as your answers. What rights do you feel super comfortable with where you're at? What freedoms are going to feel like so fresh and so new when you get your citizenship, when you're done passing this test? What are you looking forward to that's going to be different for you as a citizen? Oh, I'm so excited for you. I really am. All right, let's do a quick review. Today's questions, thinking back to our First Amendment, what are some of your rights from the First Amendment? You just need to name one of them. Good. You had your freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and to petition your government. Next, there are 4 amendments about voting in the Constitution. Okay, talk to me about who can vote. Good. Any citizen 18 or older. Okay, there's no poll tax, any race, any gender. Good. What is one responsibility? Jury duty. Good. Or voting. Voting works for both of these. It's a right and a responsibility. So what is a right unique to U.S. citizens? Voting and running in federal elections. Good job. And tell me 2 ways, please pardon the riding lawnmower that a child is now driving down my street. I kid you not, he's got like the little red riding lawnmower and 2 American flags out the back of the little trunk of this riding lawnmower. Oh, I love it. He's probably going around mowing people's lawns for $5 a lawn. And you can do that even when you're 9, 10 years old. I love this. All right. 2 ways that you can participate in your democracy. All right. Voting, campaigning, joining a group, advocating for what you think is important for your area. Good job. Very, very good. All right. Let's look at last episode's questions real quick. Okay. If you want you to remember back to our supreme law of the land. What is the one document that is like the law that covers everything? The Constitution. Good. What does that Constitution do? It sets up your government and it defines what each section of government is going to do. We'll talk about that more in the next episode. The idea of self-government is in the first 3 words of our Constitution. 3 makes a W. What are those first 3 words? We the people. Very good. What is an amendment? We talked about that a bunch today. It's when we make a change to the Constitution. Very good. And what do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? That's our Bill of Rights. Very, very good. All right, my friends, that is it for this episode of Becoming American, Staying You. If you want to share this with someone else preparing for the test, that would be fine with me. And remember, when you use your rights, you're living the American story your way. Pass this test, but keep your roots. Let's make a better America. Bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. The questions and answers in this episode come directly from the official U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the uscis Civics Test study materials. We've done our best to present them accurately and in context. This podcast is for educational practice purposes only. If you have a specific legal question or unique circumstances about your citizenship application, it's a good idea to seek guidance from a qualified immigration attorney or accredited representative. Your journey is important. Make sure you have the right support every step of the way.